All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Acceptable Accuracy Podcast. This is Tyler.
And I'm JJ Rikaza.
All right, so on this episode of Acceptable Accuracy, we actually have two returning guests today. So, would our guests like to introduce themselves?
We're just not going to talk the whole time and see what you guys do.
Believe it or not, I am very comfortable in silence.
You know who's not comfortable in silence, though? Our listeners.
Hi, everybody. I'm Daryl.
What's up, everybody? I'm Brent.
And I'm Philip. Not JJ Rikaza. I wish.
I think people already noticed that. So for those who don't know, Brent and Daryl are a part of our Wolverine 5K team, a part of the Calumet Dropouts. Of course, Philip and I are part of that team as well. But today we're going to go ahead and talk about something a little different. It is on the competition side of things, and we're going to go ahead and talk about USPSA.
Competition hot dog eating. No, not competition hot dog eating. Okay, Tyler, what are we talking about today? We're talking about USPSA, United States Practical Shooting Association, which is also like the name of the actual sport, which I think is kind of interesting that it's like the organization, but it's also the name of the sport. But our guests that we have with us today, Brent and Daryl, I know you guys have some like credentials kind of behind who you are. So I know you guys are like USPSA ROs, match directors. What's the breakdown? What makes you guys qualify to talk about USPSA?
Nothing.
You know JJ Rikaza. He's on the Go ahead.
At the moment, both of us are chief range officers and match directors for USPSA.
So what is a chief range officer?
Well, we're a safety advisor, I guess, for running stages during a match. We could have more than one stage underneath us, with ROs running it and us overseeing those stages.
So kind of the breakdown of that, Phil, is there's, as a chief range officer, when somebody doesn't like a call that the range officer makes, then the chief range officer gets called so that he can call the range master. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. So there's like a hierarchy going on here. There's like range officer, chief range officer, and then what was the other one?
Range master would go to the next thing.
Gotcha. All right, and then as far as match directors, what does that like entail, I guess, for you? And we're actually gonna do a two-parter. So this is part number one. Part number two, we're actually gonna go into match direction a little bit, so we don't need to get too much into it. But what do you guys do as match directors?
Well, fortunately, I have a co-match director, and that's Daryl, because if I had to do all this by myself, it would be crazy. But we schedule and build, and once again, when I say build, set up, we got these cute little 3D kits, and we set up stages that come out of our heads, and we put them on paper, all legal, how the USPSA wants us to do it, with written stage briefs, go build them on the ground, run the matches. But Daryl takes care of all of the questions through email, and that makes my head spin. So I'm super glad to have him.
Fair enough.
I also put all the matches out on Practice Score so that people can sign up and come play with us. So if it wasn't for Practice Score, I don't know how we would do this.
No clue. So you kind of caught us off guard on that one, Phil, from the standpoint of there's more to come on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't want to get too far into it either. And we'll actually dig into Practice Score here in a little bit, because it is such a large part of the sport as well too. But Tyler, obviously, you and I both shoot USPSA. Now I am not an RO or a CRO. I took the class at one point. It wasn't my jam. But Tyler, kind of tell us your journey about USPSA here.
Can you repeat that again? I didn't hear you.
Oh, you're good. I was just curious what your experience with USPSA was.
Yeah, so I guess before I go into USPSA, for those who don't know, what is USPSA itself? For listeners who have no idea what it is. And Brent, can you explain what USPSA is?
Absolutely. It's a series of what we call stages. Um, and of course, there is a rule book that has massive amount of rules for safety. Just about all of them are regarding safety. Some things in scoring and what you can use for targets, how they're set up, things like that. But it basically is a course of fire that can have anywhere from 12 to 32 rounds in it. There can be paper, there can be steel targets, um, different blockades and moving targets,
Hmm.
uh, things like that. But so it's basically a course of fire that kind of simulates um, defensive shooting a little bit,
Okay.
uh, but not so much really. It's more of just a competition and something to have fun with and sharpen your shooting skills and your speed and things like that.
I know that USPSA too, because there's a bunch of different shooting sports that you can do, whether it's USPSA, which has its roots in IPSC, which is like the international flavor of it. But there's also like IDPA, and then 3-gun, 2-gun, a bunch of different obviously shotgun shooting experiences. But I think one thing that makes USPSA semi unique is that it is, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a balance of speed and accuracy. And I guess that the question I have on that is
And
there's
power.
and
Yep.
power. That
Yep.
exactly. Thank you. See,
Yep.
exactly correcting me on that.
I guess, what do
So
you
how,
mean by power? What do you mean by that, Daryl?
Um, well, it would be the knockdown power of what you're shooting, whereas like a 45 um, has more knockdown power than a 9 millimeter does, and they take
Hmm.
that into account with their minimum and maximum power factor, and that is directly related to the score that you receive um, for the accuracy of your hits.
Gotcha. So, what calibers are typically used in USPSA?
Anything between 9 millimeter and 45.
Okay, wow.
I do believe 380 is allowed, but you don't see it very often.
Yeah.
Is that correct, Brent?
Yep, that's correct because I think it's what's the bullet size? Is it 30? What's a
Thir
9 millimeter?
38.
You're right. So whatever that 351, whatever the size of that is, and the 380 fits in that. But man, good luck getting that to even minimum power factor, man. You gotta. Whew.
Yeah.
that's a good point. And I think there is also within the 9 millimeter classification, there's things like 38 Super, right?
Oh yeah.
Which
Yeah.
are the typically the open guns, and those are because there's minor and major power factor, correct? And then we kind of talked about, and by getting into what is the difference between minor and major power factor, and how scoring is handled?
So your targets have three different scoring zones on them. You have a C, and a D. And in if you're shooting minimum power factor, the A is 5 points, the C is 3 points, and the D is 2 points. And now we're going from the center of the target out here. So the A zone would be in the center, and the C is around that, and then the D is the very outside edge. So you've got 5, 3, and 2. Now, if you were shooting major power factor, the A is still 5, but then the C is 4, and the D is 3 because you have more knockdown power. Excuse me, sorry about that. The knockdown power. So anything on the edge of the target, they figure is going to do more damage because of the major power factor. So they give you more points for it.
Gotcha. And I know that there's different divisions, obviously, within USPSA, and we can get into
Correct.
that as well too. Um, but with different power factors and whatnot, um, I guess let's step into that a little bit. What do I need, I guess, to get into shooting USPSA?
That's actually pretty super easy. Your carry gun. If you're somebody, seriously, if you're carrying a firearm for personal protection, a 9 millimeter, a 40 or whatever, um, that firearm, you could put that into 2 or 3 different divisions. Production would be your first one with a limited amount of ammunition in your magazine, 10 or 11 after the
15 now.
now. Oh boy, Daryl, there you go. Yeah, that's just changed. So
Yeah, and I guess that's a good point. USPSA very much is a living sport where the rules do change from year to year, based on feedback from its members, right?
well, let's face it. How many of you guys are carrying 10 rounds in your carry gun right now?
Right. And I wonder if that's like a legacy left over from like, older firearms, because USPSA has been IPSC, its parent like organization, have been around for quite a while. So my
Boy,
guess is
yeah,
you had a lot of pre-polymer handguns even that didn't have capacity like we have today or within the last 25 years.
sure. Yeah, single stack kind of ruled the roost during that whole thing.
Hmm.
And, if you did get something with higher rounds, it was some type of custom thing that they call a 2011 or whatever, something not that wasn't really common off the shelf. So,
Yep.
um,
And that's exactly why it was time for that to change, because there's micro guns out there that come off the line carrying 12 rounds.
Hmm.
yeah, exactly.
It's true. I mean, I think of even now, you've got like SIG with their P365X macro. That thing's a 17 rounder right off the bat.
Yep.
And that thing's smaller than my carry gun, which is essentially a Glock 19.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right,
that
right.
blows my mind. And like the original Glock 19 was set to carry 15 rounds, like with
Hmm.
its standard magazine. So the fact that you have what was considered a standard carry pistol, also used by police departments, fairly large firearm by today's standards, you can get more capacity with a smaller firearm is wild. So I can understand why they switched to
Yeah.
15 in production.
So, like back to your original question, you
Yeah.
said
Yep.
yes. What does it take? It takes your carry arm. You know what you're carrying every day.
Hmm.
Um, it the the thing that you would need to add to that is a few more mag pouches, or the ability to carry magazines on your belt. You need a holster that covers the trigger guard when it is placed in the holster. Um, and even like as Daryl corrected me with the now it's from 10 to 15, they've even changed some of those rules. In production, you used to have your firearm location behind your hip bone. Your magazine carriers had to be behind your other. I mean, that's all out the window now. You can draw from appendix now,
Hmm.
so which makes sense because people are carrying that way. I mean,
It's
Tyler,
true.
you carry that
I
way.
mean, I carry appendix. This is because I practice more drawing from appendix. I actually have a faster draw from appendix from concealment than I do from my holster on strong side. It's crazy to me, but that's what I practice more, and that's even why, to answer Philip's question from earlier, like what got me into USPSA. Well, I wanted to practice more. I wanted to be able to use my carry gun, which is a Shadow Systems MR920 Warpoint, which is essentially a Glock 19, and that's what I use for USPSA. That's what I use for the Wolverine 5K. That's what I use for concealed carry, and I wanted to push the limits with that gun and flex it all across the board. So yeah. So because I practice more from drawing from concealment, like I average probably about I don't know, anywhere between a 1 second to a 1.2 second draw from appendix, and then from strong side with the holster, it's about like a 1.5 probably, which is crazy to me. So I
Yeah.
guess I know what I need to practice more.
Well, there's a lot to clear over there. I mean, you're
Hmm.
carrying a retention holster on your side, and not that your appendix isn't, but
Yeah.
it's a lot to clear there. So, and the other thing, Phil, is you need a set of ear protection and some eye protection for shooting, and you're pretty much good to go. Um, Outside of when we start talking about the nuances of what you need to know to go to a USPSA match, particularly at South Kent Sportsman's Club, because we have some training that you need to attend before you come and shoot with us.
I guess it's a great like lead into the next kind of question that I had anyway. So I've got my firearm that I own. It's in one of the calibers that's supported with USPSA. Probably going to be 9 millimeter, right? And it can be anything from a carry gun to whatever. I've got a way to retain it. Got extra magazines, extra magazine holsters, enough to run up to a 32 round course, plus some extra in case there's misses. And then every once in a while, I know some stages go a little while and go beyond that. But I've got all that stuff. I feel got ear protection, eye protection. What kind of like at what point would I feel comfortable to start shooting USPSA? Like what kind of skills do I need to have going into shooting a match of the USPSA?
Well, like Brent alluded to, where we do the match directing for South Kent Sportsman's Club, we require that everybody take a 101 class for action shooting sports. We require it for USPSA, IDPA, and three gun. So, because we want to know that you can maintain your muzzle direction, maintain your trigger finger discipline, as in not having it on the trigger when it doesn't need to be, and basically use it in a safe manner. And so that when you're moving through basically a maze, even though there's more than one way to go through it, it's still a maze. You're working in and around walls and barriers and things like that. You have to be hyper aware of where your muzzle is being pointed.
And one of the reasons that is, I think it's probably the greatest disqualification or DQs that we see is muzzle direction, as that gets out of what we call the 180. And that this is across the board USPS. This is across the board in just about every shooting sport I can
Yeah.
think of. You know what I'm saying? Um, Muzzle direction is king. Um,
So
and
when you say the 180, what is that for those who don't know?
As you are facing downrange, which means where you're going to place your rounds, it goes downrange from where you're at. Anytime, wherever you are at on that surface. So if you're uprange, say up at the beginning of something, as you continue to go down, there's a imaginary, but it's not very imaginary, 180 degrees. So from your left to your right, that's where you can have your muzzle pointed and not be disqualified. If it comes out of that 180-degree, basically your shoulders straight out um, towards downrange or towards the back berm,
Hmm.
then you have violated that rule. And like I'm saying, that rule is king.
Yeah. So when you say disqualified, are you disqualified for that one specific stage, or are you disqualified from the match if you break the 180?
You are disqualified from the match.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, they do take safety quite seriously with
Hmm.
USPSA. And I know one thing with the 180 that sometimes gets confusing for people. I think Brent actually did a pretty good job explaining this, but the 180 does move with you. So the 180 is always going to be like from your left, to your right, correct? But as you progress forward, it's not like that line is behind you still. It moves with you.
Correct.
So you're always like wherever the center of like the stage is or the berm is, I should say, like your left to right 90 degrees in either direction is where your limits are. So
You got it. What else do we see, Daryl? As far as
Well, it's
you mentioned, finger trick discipline.
yeah, and just I would go back to the 180. It's not just side to side either. You cannot point your gun behind you at all. Whether it's if you go to put it in the holster and you aim it backwards, that's a 180 break as well. We don't see it very often, but it does happen.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
and above the berm as well too. If you point a loaded gun above the berm,
Uh,
Or is that not less of an issue because you can reload? I don't know. That's a weird one.
Yeah,
It,
that is actually a club thing. That's not a USPSA thing.
no, it is not right.
Gotcha.
I mean, you think about your reload. If you're out shooting both hands, shooting freestyle, and you need to make a reload, usually you're going to do that with one round in the gun still because
Right.
it just makes sense. So when you pull that thing back to your sight line, if you're right-handed, you tip it. You pull your the bottom of your gun into the left. You insert a magazine. Sometimes that muzzle can get above the berm. Um, like saying, we try not to do that, and especially at South Kent, it's a no-no, and you'll get a reminder.
Hmm.
But it's really hard to do and not do that. That's where the finger discipline comes in. If that finger is up off that trigger on the side of that slide, it's really not a super big deal. But
Yeah. So okay. So I'm getting into USPSA. I want to be as safe as possible. I'm practicing either at my range if they allow it, moving with my firearm, making sure I'm not breaking the 180. When I do my reloads or when I'm moving, my fingers off the trigger, blatantly visible, right? Because I know RO is like that. Because sometimes it's difficult if you're off to the side, but good practice. I'm practicing all of those things. What are some other additional like safety or skill sets that I should be really focusing on before I can feel comfortable to go to a USPSA like match, whether it's like accuracy or certain type of skill set, engaging certain types of targets, or what kind of other things do you think of when that first time you go to that USPSA match?
you,
Well, I would say stay within your means. You're gonna the first time you go to a match, you're gonna see a lot of people that are blazing fast and very good shooters, and
Hmm.
they didn't get that way overnight. Um, so keep it within what you're comfortable with, what you can do. Take it slow. Um, Make sure that you're doing everything safely and the accuracy is there, and then the speed will eventually come.
Yeah. I think a really good example of that is our buddy Brian, who has been on the podcast before at his first couple of USPSA matches. He's very accurate, but he took his time, he went slow, he was meticulous, and he got primarily alphas on
he
his first
shoots a
go.
freaking hand cannon.
I know he was shooting a 40 or a
Yeah,
45, I
40,
think.
45.
45. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the
Yep.
dude's got such a massive handgun collection too, but it was really cool to see how, like, I mean, he's definitely speeding up because, like, I think of for our church, we have like church qualifiers in order to carry on our safety team. And you can kind of see how he had our highest score to start out because it was all part time. So he had the highest score accuracy wise, but it's cool to see how he really sped it up. He still has a significantly high score, but it's cool to see how because now he's doing more USPSA, he's definitely speeding up, which is
Yep.
really cool to see. And how I
I've,
think of even what was it our last USPSA match, we had another new guy, and same thing. He definitely took his time. He wasn't intimidated by his speed, and he did great. So,
well, and even to continue with your question, Phil, you were talking about. So I've got all this gear. What do I do? I'm practicing. I'm doing the things. Um, Go get your safety, get your 101 class if you want to come shoot with South Kent. And you will learn so much in that 101 class.
mhm.
This is
That's a
where
good
I get
point.
to do a major shout out to Mr. Mike Baca, our trainer, and our brothers at IDPA at South Kent. These guys take care of all of the training for that. Daryl, is that like a 4 hour class with shooting? I think
Yeah.
something like that.
Yep.
It's
They
pretty good. And
do.
I've go ahead.
No, it's about 3 hours in the classroom, and then they actually set up two stages. I believe one IDPA and one USPSA,
Okay.
and run people through it. And if they don't make it through the first time, they redo it again.
Yep. They're uber uber cautious about safety and stuff. And like I'm saying, we have a really good relationship with those guys and how we do things. And like I'm saying, couldn't do it without them. So
And I've noticed too that South Kent has had that 101 class for quite a while because I've been shooting USPSA for I don't know probably 5 to 6 years now at this point. And I took it way back then, and it even existed prior. But there are a lot of other clubs. I listened to a few other podcasts that have either started offering like a required introduction class, or they just offer like an introduction match to new shooters for USPSA. They'll simplify the stages. They'll have ROs who are experienced. They'll reduce the squad size if they can, though USPSA is very, still very popular. So you get a lot of new shooters, but it does help. Like under supervision, no stress, does really help learn those skill sets needed to be able to shoot USPSA or IDPA, which is always really good. The other option is if you're at an area where there's clubs that don't offer something like that, is you can go watch a match.
There you
You
go.
can learn a lot about it as well too. We'll get people as well that show up. You always say make sure bring your eye and ear protection because it is loud. But then you get an opportunity to learn as well. And chances are you're going to find a squad that's super talkative. People are going to tell you what to do and walk you through like how a stage works, show how somebody else is shooting, tell you what you need to bring, all that stuff as well too. It's very, very friendly community.
And we'll in the next segment of this about doing the match directing thing. It's one of the things that Daryl and I really pride not only ourselves but our team at South Kent. Daryl, how many new shooters did we have in the March match? Do you remember?
Off the top of my head, no.
Okay, I
Um,
thought it was
It was,
7.
yeah, it's quite a
it
few.
was, yeah, it was at least 7, maybe 8, and I turned 3 of them away because they didn't have the 101 class.
Oh, geez. And then, of course, I don't know how many you talked to, but I bet you there was 5 or 6 people I spoke to in between, stages that were there, like Phil says, with eyes and ears on. There was one gentleman there with his son,
Yeah.
and there's a buzz about that. And here's my warning to you guys on that. Anybody that's listened to this that has clubs that are doing this, um, be nice.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, I mean, it's scary going into this type of stuff, and not knowing what to expect, and there is so much good coaching and so much camaraderie. Once again, kudos to South Kent for how this is. We're all about the new shooter and bringing them into the fold and being, uh, you know, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Inclusive,
Hospitable, probably.
yeah, hospitable, but it's, man, you could come. There's so much encouragement from our top shooters will grab a hold of you and show
Yep.
you cool stuff.
Yeah, and I think that is definitely something that drew me to like I think to shoot in your guys' squad and Steel Challenge, which is another sport that we won't get into, but you guys are so very hospitable to people that were on the squad. The other thing we have to realize is that firearm ownership is changing in the dynamics. It's always kind of been like an old dudes club.
Mm,
And I think that's changing. We're drawing in a lot of younger shooters as well as a lot of female shooters as well.
yep.
And there can be some turnoff to those who are like super high speed, nothing that's wrong with that, but that are also like, hey, don't talk to me during a match, even though it's just a club match. You don't know what you're doing. You're new. Why are you on my squad? That kind of stuff, right? And that can be a bit of a turnoff. And I think it's definitely up to those who have been shooting longer to be more hospitable to bring people into the sport. Which, again, Brent and Daryl do a very good job as both as shooters, ROs, and as match directors.
Well, like I'm saying, that's not so much us as it is you guys, because Daryl and I have got stuff to do, and we try to be. You try to meet people and be that guy, so to speak. But man, our squads are just, yeah, they're good.
Yeah, and we talked about this recently on a podcast where there is, and I don't want to get really into the weeds on this, but there's a need for people to make human connection and do stuff that's not in front of a screen. And I'll tell you what, USPSA, Steel Challenge, IDPA, 3 gun is high on that list. Learn a skill that's not in front of a computer, right, and get outside.
From Mister IT.
Yes, I tell you, I always tell people like I sit in front of a computer all day. The last thing I want to do is sit in front of the computer again at the end of the day. So,
Agreed.
yep.
Yep.
So we talked a little bit about like getting into it. Bring your carry gun. You can shoot that. But let's say that I want to get into USPSA and I have a gun that has an optic on it, or I want to shoot a like 40 or 45, or I have a 1911. Are am I competing against people that are like So if I have 1911 with 8 rounds in it, am I competing against somebody that has what's called a race gun that may have 20 plus rounds in it?
Daryl, you get this one, Mr. Rules.
Okay. Oh, geez. No, you are not.
No.
We have nine. USPSA has 9 divisions. Um, One of them is provisional, but I'm sure it's going to stick around because it's catching on quite a bit, very rapidly. But so the first one would be open, which is basically the race gun you talk about. You can do there's no limit to what you can do to modify that handgun, um, and that's why it's called open. And then we talked about production division, which there's a list of guns that your gun has to be on. Number one, it has to be on that list to be in the division. Number two, there's a bunch of criteria about what you can and cannot change. Um, you, you have to keep it stock. There's a single stack division, which is for 1911s. There's limited and limited 10, which are, oh boy, I don't even know all of the things. Um, Obviously, limited 10 is a 10 round limitation, among other things. Um, we have now limited optics. We have carry optics. So for those of you that want to shoot with your carry gun, but you have an optic on it, they made that available. About
Huge.
the only thing they don't have is a revolver with an optic. They have a revolver division, but it can't have an optic on it.
I'm just,
Sorry,
and I'm
Brent.
here to whine about this right
Yeah, I
now.
know you are.
Well, go for it, man.
I knew it when I said it.
Oh my gosh. It's like, so, oh my gosh. I don't even know how to explain this. So the USPSA owns Steel Challenge. Phil, you mentioned Steel Challenge, and I'll tell
Yep.
you, I'm going to back this up just a little bit on this. If you really want to go, if you're feeling kind of, boy, I don't know if I want to move, I don't know if I, Steel Challenge is a great place to start. You shoot
Absolutely.
standing in a box, you shoot static, you shoot 5 targets, and everybody will help you. And it's super easy. Get your kind of get your blood flowing. That's where we got started. And USPSA grabbed a hold of us and would never look back. But oh crap, where was I going? In in Steel Challenge, there is a optic revolver division, but not in USPSA. You got to have stinking iron sights. You already got a revolver with 8 rounds in it. I mean, how much more do you have to limit me?
I guess it's for those who want really hard mode. What if I want really, really easy mode and I have a rifle? Can I shoot a rifle in USPSA?
Absolutely not.
What if I have a 9mm pistol caliber carbine? Can I shoot that in USPSA?
Oh, okay.
Not on our squad.
We don't even read the stage briefs for you guys anymore. Yeah. In seriousness, yes, Phil. I know you're playing devil's advocate as a
Oh
great,
yeah,
but and Phil enjoys PCC shooting, by the way, but we make fun of him about it all the time. So,
it's true.
so yes, if you have a pistol caliber carbine, there's a division for that, and that's awesome, especially for people that might not have the what am I trying the skills to control a pistol. No, no, and I'm not saying
I feel attacked here, Brent.
no, and please don't take that wrong, guys.
And
No,
if you want to cheat even more, you
oh,
can put a laser on it.
yep. And you
Yes.
can have 6,000 rounds in the magazine or something. I don't know.
And for the record, I do shoot USPSA with a PCC, but I also shoot USPSA either in carry optics or limited optics more recently. I tend to run meme guns. I have an SBR that I run in PCC, which has been
Yep.
fun. Everybody always asks for my stamp. Like, where's your stamp?
A tramp stamp? What is it? What are you asking for?
Oh, jeez.
Tax stamp. Listen to the previous episode. We talk all about tax stamps and SBRs. So
I haven't got to listen to that
It's
yet.
in
Yeah.
my phone. You want to see it? Too bad.
Yeah,
exactly.
right. Right. But in all seriousness, if you have a pistol caliber carbine, it is a super fun gun to shoot at USPSA. And like I'm saying, I wasn't making fun of people from that standpoint, but some people feel more comfortable shouldering a firearm with 2 hands and and bearing down on it. And they're super fun people. They like to grin and smile because they beat all these other people, but hey, whatever.
And they
And
have
again, you talk about
50-round
beating all these
magazines.
other people. They're not. They are only competing against other people in the PCC division.
Correct.
They're not competing against anybody with a pistol.
But their score does show up at the top of the list.
Well, it does.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Overall match score, yeah.
The overall match score, but that's not who they're competing against.
So your original question, Phil, you got a gun. No, you're not going to compete. If you bring your 1911 single stack, you're going to compete against single stack shooters.
Yeah, and it kind of going back to the PCC thing too, real quick. There's not a lot of like rifle only sports out there, and obviously you can shoot 3-gun and you can shoot rifle as well too. But if you really want to dedicate time to shooting a rifle in a competition under the clock, it is an opportunity to do so. And again, a lot of people complain about it because it's not a pistol, but it is an option to do so. Again, they get in their own division, and I would say a lot of times now, like open shooters will typically beat PCC because they are stuck in what we talked about earlier with minor division versus open is typically in major division, so they get better scoring.
Well, yeah, you get a one of these guys, Christian Sailor, who's just pounding stuff in the open division stuff. Yeah, he'll whoop a PCC shooter. So
Yep. No, absolutely.
that's not me. Just like it when my open gun runs. So, one of the things I like to, and I might be stealing your outline thunder here, Phil, but for everybody that is listening, if you wanted to flip on your computer or whatever it is you're doing right now and go to USPSA, is it .org? I think it's .org.
I'll pull it up here real quick and verify. But if you go to their website,
Yep,
what were you gonna say?
.org. Yep. So on that, you can, or just even Google USPSA rules. You get into the appendixes, and that's where you'll see all of these firearms divisions listed that Daryl just told us about. And it tells you every specific thing that you can and cannot do. So you could look in your gun locker and say, hey, I want to shoot that. Go to your appendixes in the rules, and you'll be able to pick something out that says this and that, whatever. One of the really nice things that's happening to us right now is there's been some people complaining about what you can and can't do. Like I told you earlier, where that firearm is located on your belt and where your magazine, that's all out the window now. We even just was it just this February that the leg strap came in?
Yeah.
Daryl?
Yep.
A lot of people like to have a leg strap, it's up high that holds your guns flopping around and stuff, which I think is a wonderful idea. Please, let's stop your gun from flopping around.
Yep. Still can't be a drop leg, but you can have a strap on it now.
Right. So that's out the window. So you can put that in, and that's in any division, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
not PCC.
I did see that somebody now makes a holster for an MP5, which I thought was hilarious. But I don't obviously no holsters for PCC and USPSA.
Called a strap.
Yeah, you're right. It's called a sling. Going on.
Jeez.
I guess okay. So you mentioned the USPSA website, and I know that there is you can become a USPSA member, and there is what's called the classification system. So with being a USPSA member in the classification system, what is that whole, how does that work?
Yeah, I made you take the last one, didn't I, Daryl?
Yeah, but then you took it from me. So
no, you go.
Go ahead.
Go. Sorry.
So the classification system is it's a series of stages that are okayed by the board of USPSA to use, and they are strict. They have strict measurements. You get the diagram from the website again at uspsa.org, and you can set these up. And as long as you adhere to all the measurements, plus or minus 2 inches, I think.
That is correct.
And then that way, the classifier that we set up at South Kent is set up exactly the same as a club that set it up down in Texas. So now that gives us a way to compete against all of the other shooters, or compete against and test ourselves against all of the other shooters in the 50 states that have USPSA matches.
So then, once you shoot one of these stages, obviously there's some kind of metric of gauging how you do against other shooters. So how does that classification system work? So let's say that I shoot a stage and I'm slower than Tyler, so I shoot it in 4 seconds. Um, and then Tyler, that's actually pretty short. So let's say I shoot it in like 15 seconds or whatever, and Tyler shoots it in 10 seconds.
Okay, so they have different classes of shooters. Uh, the U class is beginner, and then you have D, C, B, and A, and then master and grandmaster. So you're working your way up, and they I'm not they take the scores of all of the people and kind of do an average of it, I guess, and that to figure out what scores you're going to need to be in which class.
Right. And the hard part about that is if you got these, Max Michelle's and JJ Ricazas, and they're putting these huge scores up, makes it a little tough on us. So, um,
Yeah, they do add new classification courses of fire periodically, because I think what happens is, especially a lot of the stand and deliver stages tend to get really what we call shot out.
yep.
So basically, like they'll have a stage that's been around since the 90s, right? And people will set it up and they will practice it over and over and over again so
Mhm.
that they're super fast in it. Well, that's not necessarily a great judge of how that individual shooter is, though they are clearly fast if they get really high score. But it's more of a memorization thing instead of saying, like, how are you compared to this stage? So I know a lot of the new classifications, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but have incorporated a lot more movement into them. So while you could still practice it and still set it up, there's a little bit more than just stand and deliver, right?
Right.
There's the movement part of USPSA, which
There's-
is a big part of a normal stage in USPSA.
yep. And once again, back at the USPSA.org, you can look at this, and there is a classification scale. I'm looking at it right now. Like Daryl talked about, U, which is unclassified, no score whatsoever. To be a D shooter, you need a whopping 2%, you guys. Okay.
Gee, thanks.
Yeah. Oh, geez, Tyler.
To
Um,
give context, I had the classifier stage that we just had at
well,
USPSA. I had 8 hard primers,
yep.
so it was rough. I had 5 in a row, so I was ready to quit after that. It was like the third stage of the day.
Yeah, it's that's not on you, man.
I
That's
know it's not. It was frustrating though, but it's all good. I found new ammo and I'm all set now. So, but
per
I digress.
And
yeah,
that actually, Tyler, you bring up a good point with the concept of having your qualification right. So let's say you have a really bad qualifier, you have a gun malfunction, a issue with hard primers, or whatever it may be. USPSA takes, I think is it your top 5? I think, and that's like of your classifiers, and that's how they rank you.
Top four.
top
Top
four.
4.
Yep.
Okay.
Nice.
So
Even
so you have
better.
to yeah, so you have to get the 4 stages in. As soon as you get 4 in, then you get a classification. But you can improve that. So let's say you have it like with Tyler had a really bad one, right? But he's hit his 4. So he may get classified as a C shooter, but realistically Tyler is like a B, probably an A shooter, right?
Yep.
So as he goes down and shoots more classifiers and does well on those with no issues with the primers, then he'll move up. And they'll basically erase his bad score off of the calculation.
Yes. And if you tank one again, it doesn't ever go down. It doesn't. They don't count against you.
Right. Yep.
Yep. And I'm saying here's the thing. So D class is 2% to 39.9, C class is 40% to 59.9, B class 60 to 74.9, A class 75 to 84.9, Master class 85 to 94.9. Of course, Grandmaster, you're shooting a whopping 95% to 100%.
Yeesh.
That's wild,
Yeah,
man.
that,
Wow.
that smokes, dude.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, if you've ever got a chance to see a Grandmaster shoot, it it can rev you up or it can make you want to quit. So
Yeah, it's funny. You'll shoot a stage and man, I shot that really well. And
yeah,
then like somebody else will shoot it after you who's even like an A shooter or a master shooter. And you're like, I feel like I did everything they did, but how did they do it so much faster?
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. So And of course, this all we kind of went over hit factor, didn't we?
Yeah, a little bit. We kind of talked about it early in the show, but if you want to kind of touch on that real quick and how you get those classifications and how it's scored, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah. So it's and I always mess this up, so I'm going to look at it again. Daryl, do you know it off the top of your head? Because I
Nope.
screw this up all the time.
Nope.
Scored points, penalties, time. So you take your scored points plus your penalties plus the time, and that equals your hit factor. So you scored points minus penalties divided by time, hit factor. Did I do that right? I'm doing that off the top of my head because I'm going to look it up now.
All I know is it's
I have
math.
no
You want to go
idea.
fast and get all alphas.
Exactly. Dang. You know what? If you look up hit factor on Google, it takes you to some really amazing, stupid places.
Mhm.
Not the USPSA website. I could take
Well, yeah. So,
it. But basically, I think it's the higher the hit factor, the better. Is that correct?
that is correct. The higher the hit
So
factor.
it's not like golf.
What?
It's
All
not like
this
golf.
time I thought it was low. No
Mine are
wonder
always
I
so
can't
low.
Oh my gosh, you guys. What a bunch of wieners.
I've been trying to get low.
Oh my goodness. Well, I can't find
But
it.
yeah,
So
regardless of what the exact numbers are, it is an equation that is used with you know the points that you scored, the penalties that you incurred, and the time that you did it in. It all gets jumbled together, and that's how they create a hit factor. And that's where they get what we talked about at the beginning of the program with accuracy, power, and speed is all put into one number, basically.
right. There it
Nice.
is. Okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
How do you calculate hit factor? Because I'm looking for the official word. Like I know what it is, but I kind of don't. You can calculate your hit factor, the HF, by adding your scored hits to get a total number of scored points. You then subtract any penalties, and this number gives you your total points for a stage. You divide your total points by your stage time to get your hit factor. Pretty easy.
All I know is the tablet does it for us automatically.
See, that's the problem. That's why I don't do it. And back in the day, like I mean, if I apologize to some of you guys, some of you old range masters that have tried to teach me things that may be listening, but they used to do this on paper for every shooter.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
I
oh
am
my,
so glad we never did that.
oh. Every once in a while, you'll go to a match that maybe you're working and they'll say, "Yeah, we're going to do paper backup." I'm like, "You mean we're going to take it off the tablet and write it on paper, right?" And they go, "Yeah." I'm like, "Good."
Yeah, it's really interesting too that nowadays, obviously we do this a lot of this on the tablet, and then there's always the risk of losing scores off a tablet. But I think at the higher level matches nowadays, it almost seems like it's a requirement that the club has Wi-Fi on the in their bays that they shoot
Mhm.
USPSA in, because then you can
Yes, if you
always be
don't
uploading the score.
if you don't have that, you can still run a major match, but you do have to do paper backups.
Yikes! No
Still to
thanks.
this day.
Yep, to this day, you're right. So everybody would get a paper backup when they'd walk away from that stage. It is brutal, man. So now we just get an email.
All right, Tyler, do you have any more questions regarding USPSA for Brent and Daryl?
I think I'm good.
You haven't asked any questions, dude. Are you just like eating like bonbons over there? What are you doing?
I'm just chilling, man.
Okay.
No, you guys are doing great.
All right, so we mentioned the USPSA website to finding more information regarding rules, divisions, equipment, all of that stuff. Where do I find matches for USPSA?
Practicescore.com. All one word. PRACTSCORE. Practice score.
Yep, the site is free to use. It's maintained, they have ads on it. It's maintained. I should say for competitors, right? I don't know if you guys pay a match fee. I guess we'll cover that in the next episode.
Yep.
But yeah, sign up, find a match. It does it geographically when you log into the website. You can like put little pins in the map. You can find out what's next. It is all types of matches by default. You can narrow that down by selecting the type of match that you want to shoot, whether it's again USPSA, IDPA, Steel Challenge, 3-gun, or any kind of the outlaw matches or other matches that we haven't even talked about today. But yeah, other than that, anything else before we wrap this up that anyone wants to talk about
Just so
USPSA?
the
Yeah.
practice score is also where you would go to look up to see how you did in the match. The score
Right.
after the match, the scores get uploaded back to practice score, so that everybody can go on there and see how they did.
Right. And as well as like we talked about becoming a USPSA member, that you would have. It's kind of like a little, I don't know. You have your own. Help me here, Phil. Your
Like your own
profile,
dashboard almost, yeah.
dashboard, profile, whatever.
Yep.
And that calculates up on that too. So you get to check your, if I shot carry optics that day, and if I've shot carry optics enough classifiers to qualify in something, it'll keep track of all that for you and tell you where you've been and how you've done it. And it's been super fun. I'll also encourage you, if you are really interested in this, and even from the running side of it, I mean, they grabbed a hold of Daryl and I pretty quick. We shot. When did we start shooting, Daryl? 2016, 17?
17, I believe it was.
Okay.
Wow.
And when did we start the IRL courses? That was just, boy,
It's like 2018, 2019?
it was
Eight-
pretty quick.
Because it was prior to COVID.
18, because it was the first year that they did the state match.
Yeah.
We wanted to get our RO certification so that we could do the state match for Steel Challenge.
That is correct.
I believe
Right.
it was 2018.
So where I'm going with this, if it's something that you're interested in, you continue to shoot and you really enjoy it, ROing it's frustrating, but it's fun all at the same time. And you learn a whole bunch. And that's all I got.
Yeah, it's volunteer, right? Like you need ROs in order to run a match. So if you really get into it, to your point, and you're one that's good at leading people and understanding rules and stuff, it's a fantastic like thing to do to give back to the club, right? So I know I always appreciate, because I went through the RO class as well. Now I'm not like I can run people through like stuff, but that's not the kind of person I am. So I don't mind doing it, but I don't like doing a whole match worth like Brent and Daryl do, because they're really into it. But it's nice to have all those, other, if you're in there and you can help out and do RO, fantastic. The one other thing I want to mention too about the USPSA membership is that you don't have to be a USPSA member to shoot a local club match.
Nope.
If you want to shoot anything above, you do have to be a USPSA member. And then the only way to get classified or to see your score classifications to get access to that system is you also have to be a USPSA member.
That is correct.
Which you can pay for yearly, 3-year, and then in 5-year, and I think a lifetime membership as well, are all options.
That is true. It's kind of funny because one of our new shooters that was on our squad last time, Andrew, he asked Daryl, he goes, "So what do you mean I have to be a USPSA?" The dude signed up right then.
Yeah, he
Nice.
went and got his membership in the middle of the match.
That's funny, because we were trying to find his score on the match afterward to see how he had done, and like Tyler and I couldn't find him. We were like, "Is this the guy that we were shooting with?" And that
he's
explains why.
there.
Yep.
Yeah, he was there because he had signed up, and we didn't realize he had signed up already.
Gotcha. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff. If we're going to make this a part tour, we can get into some crazy. So,
yeah, fantastic. Anything else before we close out?
Live long and prosper. Well, I don't know.
Fantastic. Tyler, you want to close us out?
Yeah. So thanks.
I'd like to say something.
Yeah, go for it, Daryl.
We could do this in the next match too, but so you're going to get into this, and you're talking about what to bring. In the last episode that you guys did, you talking about range bags. Phil brought up the thing about having gloves in your range bag. Not only for picking up brass, but at the end of this match, it is very, very helpful if you would stick around and help us tear it down.
Mm-hmm.
We have a very dedicated setup crew that comes in and puts the match together to let you shoot it. But if you, at the end of it, if you rely on them to take it down again, you might not have another match to shoot.
Yeah, no kidding.
So we very much appreciate all of your help in tearing it down, putting things away before everybody goes home.
Absolutely. And we have that. Our
Oh,
our crew
yes,
was,
we do.
yeah,
Yep.
it was good. So
Yeah,
I
now
and
you
I
just
can
think
want to
even on
just,
top of that, how after you shoot a stage, I appreciate how it's really all hands on deck to paste up and reset the stage again. So this way the next person can get in. So we're being efficient with our time and continue to build that camaraderie and teamwork too.
hmm It's also a great way for new shooters to learn the scoring system.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Yep.
I kind of reflecting back since I'm still fairly new to USPSA myself, how I've kind of done it on and off for the past couple of years. How I remember that first match I did with you guys, how everyone had accepted me with open arms, you know? Everyone was super friendly, very kind, gave me pointers, and it was just an awesome time. So I'm just really thankful for the atmosphere that you guys have created through your leadership at the club. So just
Well,
very
they did
thankful
the
for
same
that.
thing to us. That's why we wanted to stick
A-
around.
That's
Absolutely.
fair. That's valid.
And I
So
say this all the time. I would have never met some of the greatest people that I have in my life, some brothers and sisters in my life, had it not been for firearms and competitive shooting.
it's
And
so
that
true.
you two are that. Phil and Daryl, Phil and Tyler, you guys are that. So
Hmm. Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that. So, and I even think how we got even closer together, well, through the Wolverine 5K as well. That's just another competition doing things together. And hopefully the Zombie Invitational. So let's party,
uh,
man.
that just opened up, I think.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
saw
they
that. I
just sent
saw
the
that in
email
the
on it.
middle. I saw Kyle's message that to us while we were recording. So I'm like, hey, my
Oh,
man.
great.
Yeah.
Sorry, Phil.
Yeah.
I keep rabbit trailing.
No, it's actually totally fine, and this actually brings up a good point that I'm glad was mentioned. Is USPSA, honestly, I think other than Steel Challenge, USPSA is one of the like easier like sports to get into from a shooting perspective because there's not cover garment requirements. You know, there are fault lines, but there's not like shooting priority like there is for IDPA. You're not dealing with multiple firearms like you are with, you know, 3 gun or 2 gun. So it is a bit of a gateway into other shooting sports that you want to get into, and it really allows you to learn a lot while under the supervision of an RO, right? And really getting to know your firearm. Additionally, when that timer goes off, like your brain usually falls out of your head.
Uh-huh.
So if you learn how to function in that way in that space where when that timer goes off, it's really one of the only ways we have to do stress inoculation, which is probably the only way I was able to convince Tyler to shoot USPSA in the first place because I know he really likes the defensive pistol side of stuff.
Yep.
That's true. Well, because keep in mind, this was back in what 2021, 2022, where I got into guns in 2020 because of the riots that were happening in Grand Rapids. So for me, that's where my brain was going. I wanted to be more focused on concealed carry stuff. I wanted to be more focused on defensive style of shooting. And based off of my research, like USPSA seems great, but I knew that I needed to put in my brain, like, hey, this is more of a game, which it's yes, there's tactical aspects where you're shooting significantly faster. So that's where the stress inoculation and of course, like, how is my firearm going to be doing in this? How are my skills? And because even for the soft training, I did primarily fundamentals. That's what I did. So even now, like, I train more fundamentals, and let's see how that carries over to USPSA.
And it
So
all carries over. Tyler, you're the poster child of that from your last match with all of the gun problems you had.
yeah.
So you listeners, that didn't stop Tyler. He
Hmm.
got his gun back in and he kept going.
Hmm.
Now, did he have a great hit factor? No, because he's competing against people that didn't have any malfunctions. But he kept his firearm in the game, got reloaded, got going, finished the course of fire. That's the game, you know.
Exactly.
So
A lot really good at malfunction clearing.
Yeah, I had probably 20 malfunctions that day, man. It was rough.
at least.
It was rough. 20, 25, maybe 30. I don't know. But either way, it was a rough match, but kept on pushing through. Something I've learned: don't retreat, keep pressing forward.
Yep.
So,
And I
I,
have to clarify when Phil says that USPSA is a gateway, very much like other drugs are gateways. This gateway has taken me to all kinds of other platforms, which I can love you guys and hate you guys for all at the same time.
yeah.
But it's one of those things too where it's one of those skills and sports that you don't necessarily graduate from, because it's something that I wouldn't necessarily say it's easy to learn, but it's learnable, but it's difficult to master.
Oh, jeez. Obviously, got to have 95% score.
Yeah, no
To get the
kidding.
grandmaster.
So,
All right, Tyler, you want to close us out?
Yeah, so thanks everyone. So actually, let's go ahead and go with some dad advice or some advice in general. So Philip, what do you got for us?
Oh, we're right on the spot.
Yeah, bro.
Get out and shoot with other people. The stress inoculation that we just talked about, any kind of sport, truly, whenever you're kind of under the gun, bad pun, um, allows you to do hard things in life beyond just shooting. Like, I would definitely attribute the skill sets from a stress, like be able to deal with stress. Like, I would definitely attribute that directly to my role in my career, to be able to work under pressure, under stress, to the point where I wouldn't necessarily say it's fun, but you almost kind of enjoy that, like, stressful situation, that time to work through stuff. So don't, yeah, stress is bad, and constant stresses can be really bad on your health, but don't run away from it, and embrace it and try to get through the stress instead of trying to constantly live in this state of fear, if that makes sense.
wow.
All right,
Deep.
all right, Daryl, what you got following up that?
If you're
You're
gonna
welcome.
shoot USPSA.
There you go.
Oh, man.
All right, Brent, what you got for us, brother?
I'm going to take it a little bit serious on this. Be a good man, not a nice guy.
So good.
I like it.
So true.
Huh. All right, what do you got, Tyler?
Kind of what I said earlier. Keep on pressing forward. Things happen, malfunctions happen, but keep on moving forward. Have a clear mind and just press forward and don't give up. So cool. So that concludes our episode of today with Brett and Daryl on USPSA Part 1. Join us next week for Part 2. Catch you guys later.
Sweet. Yep. Subscribe to the podcast. Listen, like, and comment.
And
And we'll see you
follow.
guys next one.
And give us a rate too. Give us a review. An
Yes.
honest review. As long as it's a 5-star review. But
An honest 5-star review.
exactly.
And
And
sponsor.
USPSA, sponsor us.
And make snack suggestions.
Oh, my. See you guys. Thanks, man.
That's it.
Catch you later.
See you, everybody.